Hello, folks. This is Chris, KY4CKP. LCARA has been producing videos from a club oriented perspective for 3.5 years now, and we have a library of approaching 300 videos. And we've acquired a lot of new subscribers over that time period, and we're very grateful for that. But we know that folks don't always kind of go back and watch some of the earlier videos, and there's some really good content in even those early videos. So what we wanted to do is start a new publishing schedule here on Tuesdays, and it's going to be called Time Machine Tuesday. And we're just simply going to republish some of the original videos so that folks have a fresh opportunity to take a look at those and the content they contained. So let's all get inside the time machine and go back for the very first Time Machine Tuesday. LCARA HAMRadio presents a Time Machine Tuesday vintage video release. Welcome to Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. You can find us at LCARA.net, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. Hello, this is Chris, KY4CKP, and also for Brian, who's behind the camera, KY4BDP, and Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. This is LCARA in the field, and today we want to talk just briefly about some options for portable power. We're going to get into the back side of this, which is batteries and some portable boxes and things, similar to this one on the table, which we're just going to use for demonstration today. But we want to talk about solar for a little bit, because there's quite a few options out there. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and it can really help extend your in-the-field operations, and especially with field day coming up, I think this could be pretty important, or at least of interest to folks. So we have a few options here on the table, and we want to talk about the kind of technology that's represented here, and a little bit about generic price points. The prices fluctuate quite a bit, but we want to give you at least an idea what you might need to spend to consider some of these options. So let's go ahead and start with this little guy in the back. This little red guy, he's kind of one of my favorites. Obviously not a real large panel, but the technology here is known as ETFE. And the interesting thing about these panels is how thin they are. It's an extremely thin panel. It can fold up. It's very tough and durable. It's flexible. Okay, they use these a lot on boats, sailboats, because in the RV industry, because you can, as these panels get a little larger, again, they have some flex to them, and you can actually mold them a little bit to a non-completely flat surface, and fairly weather resistant. Don't want to call them weatherproof, but they're fairly weather resistant. And this particular model has some USB outputs on the back. So 15 watts is what we're looking at right here. So not a especially large panel, but it would help take care of your phone, help keep a tablet going a little bit longer, things like that. But very small, light, and portable. And this particular panel, and with ETFE technology, which is a little bit newer, you're probably looking at 40 to 50 bucks in that range. So you're paying for the newer sort of technology of the panel that's pretty tough, thin and light, but you're not going to get quite as much size or as many watts or amps for your charging needs for your dollar. So there is going to be a trade-off there, but for certain situations, a great choice. Now we've also got some options here in the front, and we also have another example here on the ground of a ETFE panel. This is a 50 watt panel, and we've actually got it hooked up to the box here in the back with our charge controller. Not a lot of bright sun right now today, but we do have it hooked up. We have some cables here coming into a charge controller. You got two major types of charge controllers. It depends on how much money you want to spend. For field operations, you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money, I don't believe, because you're going to be doing relatively short-term operations, and almost any technology can work. You can go with what's known as PPTP or PWM. This is a pulse width modulation module, a little bit less expensive, but it gets the job done, not as much money, and will work very, very nicely. This is a 30 amp, so it could handle easily, say, 300 watt panels, something like that. So it can give you plenty of power, and it'll certainly handle anything we have out here today. So again, that's a 50 watt style of panel. Again, it's very thin and fairly flexible. You can see it's got a little bend to it. It's perfectly fine. And then on the table, we have some monocrystalline type displays, type solar panels. These displays, or these solar panels, are still pretty thin, okay, but they're not very flexible. Just a little bit, not much. So you would still want to be careful with these. You don't want to bend them too much, but they tend to come in a foldable package. So we have a couple of different ones here that you could look at. A couple of different brands, Sun Power and a few others. There's a lot of options on the market, a lot of price points. Do your due diligence when you're researching to buy a product because there's a lot of other options available, but the technologies are pretty similar. The ETFE monocrystalline panels, we'll mention the polycrystal panel there in the back in just a minute. So here we have a 4-panel option. This is about 27 watts. We got 4 panels on that one. Fairly thin, not too heavy, but it's going to be heavier than the ETFE. This panel here is rated at 39 watts, a little bigger, right? It's got a few more panels, okay? A little bit more weight. And then our other example over here is a nice polycrystalline style panel. That's a 150 watt panel. So you can see you're going to have to get bigger for more power. And then it just depends on the kind of technology you want. Do you need flexibility? Is weight a concern? Okay. Options on that panel, those can go anywhere from at least $100 to $300, $400, $500. Depends on the brand. So again, you have to shop around a little bit. Depending on where you're purchasing, import duties or shipping costs may be substantially higher, as always. But those give you some options on what you might want to do. If you're doing field day, you might go with some panels like this. If you have a safe place to stand them up, there's not much flex to these, right? They have an aluminum frame and they're glass, so you have to be a little bit careful in that way. But then you get a good amount of density typically out of them. But for field operations, any of these could help you extend your runtime when you're on the field. If you're at the park, okay, you're taking power out of your source. It'd be nice to at least be able to put some amount back in and at least extend that runtime. So they're not really that complicated. I've got a set of cables hooked up to this panel on the ground for this big bank. I've also got a cable for this other lithium-ion based portable charger. Okay, so a lot of solar panels will use what are known as MC4 connectors. There's a male and a female, so you can't really get them wrong. You can adapt things over to Anderson power pole if you want to go that route. There's even a few other connector styles available. I've got things set up to where I have typically alligator clamps in the MC4 connectors, and I have a 12 volt in on this system, so I can just as easily hook that panel up to this one, and these others have a barrel connector that could go to a device like this as well. And also usually a multitude of options. You can have jump starters. You can use these to jump start your car or to charge battery banks, things like that. Of course, your phones, your tablets, all those types of devices, your cameras, if you're doing camera work. I've used these to charge or help run my telescope, and I've done some astronomy. So lots of uses for these. So these are some of your options that are out there. Again, we're going to get into portable power or the battery storage side of this in another video, and we'll cover these 2 units and a couple of others as well, including plain old batteries, and also a pretty advanced unit from iNergy. So we just wanted to go over some of the options that are available to folks today. Solar is not nearly as potentially complicated as it might have been at one time that may have kept folks from exploring it. They've made the products pretty user-friendly, pretty easy to use and set up. And so look into it. If you need a little bit of help on your portable operations, we're going to talk about a radio like the 818, the Yaesu FT818ND, and it has a built-in battery. Cool little radio, all spectrum, all channels from 70 up to at least 80, I think, on that one. But still, if you want to be out there and have a lot of fun, you might want a little additional power to go with that kind of thing. So we wanted to just show some options here, give you an idea on price point, from $30 to $50 for a couple of these, into up to $100 to $300 to $500, especially for some of those bigger capacity panels. Okay, so we just want to give you some options. So that's going to be it for this video. Again, we'll be talking about actual power retention capabilities a little bit later, and also things like our go bags or packs that we can use, and give you some ideas on those in some upcoming videos. So this is Chris, KY4CKP, and also for Brian, KY4BDP, and this is LCARA, Lake Cumberland Area Amateur Radio Association. And please check out our social media links in the description below, and thank you for watching.